So one morning, after leaving New Orleans on New Year's Day, ready to head back to Chicago, she said that we should stop at a Denny's for breakfast. And I get it. Remembering being a goth drama kid, hanging out at Denny's at all hours of the night because you were too young to drink at a bar. But I don't go to Denny's because, well, one year, after partying in New York for New Year's in D.C., Paul, one of my buddies there, said he wanted to go to a diner in Delaware for breakfast. Now, we hadn't had anything to eat, and we'd been drinking forever for New Year's, so we thought this was a great idea, and off we went. Now, as I said, we hadn't eaten, and we were starving once we were in Maryland, so when we saw exits for Annapolis, we thought that this would be a good place to grab breakfast. We walked into an empty Denny's, which didn't even have locks on their doors because they were always open, and they sat us in a booth, and they took our order. The waitress brought Paul's Grand Slam and whatever I ordered, I don't know, an omelet, hash browns. But just after we started eating, a really big man entered Denny's, and even though the Denny's was empty, they sat him right behind me in the booth right next to us. He was built like Chief Wiggum, and he shook my seat as he worked his way in. I thought of that Simpsons episode where Wiggums was in a booth at a diner and Lou had a stab at Wiggums' seat with a switchblade, popping it like a balloon so Wiggums could get out of his booth. So when he sat in his seat, he moved my booth seat like 6 inches toward the table, and then he immediately lit up this huge cigar that smelled like burning manure. Now, how would I know what burning manure smells like? Well, look, I worked on a farm. I lived on one for a bit, and when I tried to eat, all I smelled was that burning manure. So not 2 minutes after Wiggum sat down, I started hearing noises, and my seat started moving. A minute into these gurgling noises, which sounded more and more like heaves, I suddenly heard what sounded like wet concrete splattering against cement. This man right behind me was shaking and threw up for over 1 minute. Now, instead of burning manure, all I could smell was his alcohol and bile. And so I said to Paul, right then and there, "We're leaving and not paying for our food." Still eating, Paul said, "What? Why?" So after I tyrannically whispered about the smells and the sounds of this fat man's vomiting escapades, the nonplussed Paul finally relented and followed me to leave. I gave the waitress a tip, but the people at Denny's understood why we wouldn't pay. So yeah, we did go to that diner in Delaware, and the food was good, and no one vomited. And you know, for a minute there, I even thought about getting biscuits and gravy. But that New Year's, I resolved to never eat at a Denny's again. Thank you.